All right. Thank you for that. I'm Mike Millgate, as he said, and this is my second conference talk that I've done in my life. I've watched my first one a few times to test myself, to figure out things to improve, things to change, and to listen to me say, okay, so a lot. This is an interesting experience. I would challenge any of you out there that are considering it or not considering it to give it a try. It opens up interesting worlds, and that's kind of the basis of why I went forward. It's kind of the basis of my talk is testing humans. Machines are easy, humans are not. And the gist of where I came up with this, let me get into it here. So where I like to start off with, I hit that button. Okay, so as Simon said earlier, right? Simon said, be joyous. I am joyous. I'm a troublemaker. But where I'd like to do first is just kind of send out my thanks to the open source community that has shared all of the information that they share out there. I'd like to thank Sauce Labs for giving me the opportunity to be up here, and I'd like to thank Optum for allowing me to do these exploratory things out here in this world, in the community. So big thanks to everybody out there that helps me get here onto the stage. So this is me. First off, I'm a father, I'm a husband. These are my boys and me having a good time playing. Second off, I'm a troublemaker as it's been defined. This was an email that came through the system from one of the people that I work with, and they tagged me as the most feared QA member, and it's kind of fun because I am a QA person, and I'm feared because I ask the question why over and over, because you have to figure it out, and you have to be a troublemaker in this industry, in my opinion. But as you can see, that was around March 2016, but I think I've been this way for a long time. So this is a nice surprise that I got from my mom in a birthday card recently. She's been sending me these young photos of me, and as you can see, I don't play by the rules very well, and I test things out. So that's me. I'm a troublemaker. I'm also a big advocate for the Utah Foster Care Foundation, and all of my boys are adopted, and I'm a big advocate for the Utah Foster Care Foundation. And thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Unexpected. Surprise for family members that are out listening online that may not know this, my wife and I'm a big advocate for it, but we are also renewing our license to start taking placements again. It's been expired for a while. So surprise for everybody that's listening online, my wife and I are pursuing that a little further. So where I'd like to start, first things first, as I said, this is my second talk. My first talk was right here, testing at the speed of concurrency. And I learned a lot of stuff from that, which was very interesting for me to be able to sort of come up with this talk about testing humans. I like to observe people, and it's kind of sort of a pun because we're at a testing conference, right? We're testing humans. I'm observing you, you're observing me, and we're trying to figure out what this guy's talking about. So as Simon was saying, be joyous. I don't know if you're noticing my shoes. The nice bright red shoes. That came from my wife and my boys, and my wife got them for me saying, these shoes say Mike. They're up in your face, and they're fun. So why I'm bringing up my talk here is to reference you back, right? I'm telling a story, a history. You can find out more about me. You'll see some patterns that were the same in my talk last time to this time. But overall, one of the things that I asked during my talk, which was fun, was after this talk, and somebody else started a thread which was called Speaker Confessions on Twitter. And I was watching that, and I've been asked that question since I presented, and one of my speaker confessions is during this talk, I did a live demo, and it didn't go very well. So I was testing myself during my talk. So I was testing myself as a human. I was able to recover, which was great, but you can go out and watch it and see kind of what happened, and you can find out more details about some of the other stuff that I've done. But part of that where I was wanting to do was to run some tests in concurrency, because that was the topic. And I was asking the crowd to tell me how many tests would you like me to run between 0 and, or from 1 to 150. And of course, somebody shouted out 42, because that's the answer to all things. And at the time, I didn't really pay attention to that, but I have since kind of studied it and got my bearings and kind of understood. So 42 is the answer. And the reason why 42 is the answer for me is my year 42 was a great year. First things first, I did my first conference talk ever. After that, I got to explore Google's campus. I got to explore Apple's campus. I got to explore Facebook's campus. And the reason why I'm showing this stuff is I like to show the human element to what we do. We deal with machines every day, and the machines are easy to deal with from my aspect, my perspective, because they're all ones and zeros, on or off. And that's the simplest way that you can put it. But humans, they can be on and off too, if you think about it. But computers are ones and zeros. Humans are GATC at the base root. And so you have to figure out that combination dealing with a human. So this is my life, sort of my experiences that have happened during my 42. From there, oh, it's not going. From there, I was super excited about this. I got to actually go to the Computer History Museum. I'm a geek. It's great. It's fun. I got this picture taken, "Make software change the world." I thought that was pretty powerful. It was a good slogan for the Computer Museum. If you're here and get a chance, haven't been, go try it out. Those that are in town, go look at it. It's kind of fun. Took me back through my childhood ages. My wife got to participate for me. This is her celebrating leaving the museum because she did not have a good time. She kind of dreaded this day, but she was a good sport and knows I'm a computer geek, so we went through it. So yeah, thanks for that. Additionally, I got to experience my first Major League Baseball game. That's awesome. 42 years it took me. I got to experience my first solar eclipse, sorry. I actually had the opportunity to go into the totality pathway up in Idaho. It was actually a really cool experience, and different human behaviors happened during that. I just wanted peace and quiet. People were doing fireworks. I'm like, fireworks are in the sky. Look at it. I also got to experience my first live NFL football game. And my live NFL football game, it has a good story around it because my topic that I came up with was coming up with this story. But before I get to this, I'm going to talk about what people have been alluding to. They've been asking me questions. So if you follow my talk, year 2017 is the first year that I was able to accomplish a goal that I've been trying to do for a long time. My goal was to run a mile a day every day for a year. So if you saw me around yesterday, I had this shirt on that had this equation on it. This equation equals 365 days not missed, and I ran a total of 913.11 miles. And the main reason why I do this, my notes aren't working. That's okay. So the main reason why I do this is because I want to enjoy life. And to be able to enjoy life, I have to work hard and test things. But I don't want to talk about the technical side of things. I kind of want to talk about the human side of things because we need to interact with each other. And my philosophy behind this talk originally, so why this is important is I'm setting an example for my boys. I'm setting an example for my family, and I learned things about myself while doing this goal that I know that I can be committed to myself and I can do hard things and solve those problems. So, before we get into that realm, this line that you see here is a fortune I got from a fortune cookie many years ago. And when I got this fortune, my sarcasm came into play pretty heavily. I still have this fortune on my computer screen monitor, and I look at it every day as I'm working. And it sets the tone of how I behave, whether I'm being positive or negative. Am I being proactive in helping people, or am I being a grump that day? Because we go through different moods and we deal with different things. And it's okay to experience all those ranges of emotions, but we also need to know how to kind of interact with people dealing with all those ranges of emotion. So the great pleasure in life is proving people wrong. In the QA realm, we kind of are doing that, but we're also trying to do it to improve quality. So part of my fun little things I like to do during life and testing humans and experience things, I like to point out problems that I encounter through life. So this was on my trip home from SauceCon last year. This was blaring on a machine in the airport. Defect. I'd really like to live in this house that has a 1,000% finished basement. This is an interesting one, sort of a usability issue. It's blocking certain things. Hotmail, who has a Hotmail account? I still do. It's fun to play with that kind of stuff. I'm picking on Joe here a little bit. Joe just had a conference recently. He handled his stuff excellent. He had a lot of technical difficulties, and the way he handled that was amazing. But this was something that I saw prior to the conference starting. This was just, I tried to go through one of those menu items that you see there, and I kept getting this 404. Of course, I reported it to Joe, and he kind of figured out where it needed to go. So this is another interesting one. They're using parallax capabilities. Down on the bottom, not quite showing what they want it to show. Here's some more things. So this one's kind of blurry, but you can see this was like an internal thing that I saw. So we even have problems internally where I'm at. We got typos. We've got missing pages. These are me experiencing life, and I'm seeing it. I'm testing. These two could benefit from Apply tools. You can see I explore all kinds of things, like you can see into my life and things that we're trying to explore and do things. But meetups, emails come through to me, and they could benefit from some visual validation. I'm looking at this stuff on my mobile device, and then I switch over to other things. I like to pick on Sauce Labs because, hi Sauce Labs, they like it. So in this regard, this first one over here, Simon for a time was employed by Uber because of a application glitch on the Sauce Labs SauceCon site for a while. As soon as I saw it, I sent it to them, they fixed it. It's fun. I see them, snap them, go. Then we got some page navigation problems within Sauce Labs. I like their 404 page. I took a snap of it. Dogs, come on. We like dogs. And if you happen to want to get this position at Sauce Labs, you're going to have to roll up your sleeve twice. This was one of the recent ones that I encountered. It's actually still happening on my machine, so if there's any people here from Slack that would like to see it, this was a fun glitch that I found. I'm sure people have seen it if they've used Slack before, but this is through their desktop app, and this was an interactive. It slid back and forth, and you can click on the chickens, and they jump. So it was entertaining for me to find this glitch. I didn't really even do anything. It just didn't load, and click the chicken. And I guess I researched it out, and it's a throwback to the one of the owners that created Glitch. He had a video game back in the day. I can't remember the name of it, but he kind of, yeah, was that what it was? Glitch, yeah. So it's a fun little game to play on their Glitch page. If you want to come play it, you can come see my computer later. This one is interesting because that's all you get. This one was aggravating to me because this was in the financial industry. They threw this up to me, and basically I couldn't get in through the mobile app, but I could get in through their browser on this. So yeah, that's all I really will talk about that. Okay, so this leads me to this slide, which takes me to the submission process for my talk. So I've been testing myself. I'm testing other people. I'm picking on other people because great pleasure in life is to prove people wrong. Well, I'm proving myself wrong here. So as part of my submission process, my original concept to this talk was talking about how I feel that in the technology world, we as humans are progressing so fast in the technology world that we're maybe not considering the consequences of what we're doing. So social media is creating these, I don't have any factual things, these are just opinions right now, but social media is creating these mental barriers or societal problems with young children because they have to have this instantaneous feedback. And so I'm going to be interested in seeing what the industry does as far as being able to help facilitate mental stability problems and stuff like that as people start to age up. Because mental problems are big issues in the world. You can see it just in this city, and we were having a conversation about this the other day. It's this city is a very lucrative city, but there seems to be a lot of mental instability based on the homeless people and things that I'm seeing out in here. So what can we do to help? What can the computer industry do to help find information to help these people move forward? So what I'm saying here is I have some procrastination problems. I procrastinated to submit this talk. So it was an oxymoron for me to be able to submit this talk based on my abstract, because my abstract was talking about the use of these social medias and things like that. Well, I submitted this talk on my road trip back from Arizona. My wife was driving. I was in the car, typing on my laptop, attached to my mobile device, sharing the 4G connection, driving down the freeway at 6,500 miles, or 65, not 6,500, that was super fast, that's why it didn't load. Woo! I submitted this talk while driving, and I thought that sort of defeats the purpose of what I'm using that technology. I use technology, yes, I do. It's my job, I do it, and I experience it. So I was testing myself here, but while I was testing myself, I actually got into an area where I could submit this talk with a more stable connection, and I still experienced problems. So this is what I went through. So if you're going to submit a talk, make sure you don't procrastinate. Be effective. Okay, so when I heard about SauceCon, I was super excited. I saw it on my mobile device, and I'm looking at this, and I thought, great, I'm going to go register. I'm going to come to this. Even if I don't talk, I want to come. This is a great conference that I've been to. So this was on my mobile device. Surprise, surprise, when I go to my browser, this is the screenshot they took. Look at that. I'm famous. That's my ear and my hand. So you can become famous. Your ear can be famous. I'm going to pick on Greg right here. He looks scared at whatever I'm saying. He looks scared. But Quill thought it was pretty funny. So in between whatever we were talking about, you can see the interaction of people going on here. And I studied photography a little bit in college, and I've noticed this. It was interesting to watch how this was laid out, because the hot spot in this picture is right here. This guy, I know him, I can't remember his name. He's looking down at his phone, most likely. Greg is scared of whatever I'm saying. And Quill is pretty happy about whatever I said. It was just interesting to see the behaviors of what's going on. This was a break right before someone's talk, so we were chatting and doing some things. But you can get a famous ear if you want to come stand up on the stage. Okay, so we're getting back. I was picking on people. I was giving people pleasure because I was proving people wrong, proving myself wrong, and seeing how people behave. I'd like to change this to say the great pleasure in life in proving people wrong to the great pleasure in life is helping. And I have that in my personal life based on some of the things that you've heard about me. But also when I'm in the world of teaching and working with my coworkers, I want to be able to help them. That's something inside of me that I just want to help people. And I'm a troublemaker, so I do point out the problems, but I also want to be able to help them along. So I came up with this sort of I have an internal framework where I work, blah, blah, blah. You can hear about it in my other talk a little bit, or talk to me afterwards. We'll give you more details. I don't want to be super technical here. I want to interact with humans. So this is my little framework that I've created that I sort of teach out and how I get my resources involved with moving forward with automation and testing in general. So see, try, ask, learn, share. When it comes to C, this is, if you think about how we have become, how I walked up this stage and how you guys got here, we all came up from being a child. And when we're a child, we learn by seeing. We learn by trying. We learn by asking. Other ways you can learn is by sharing. And I've been learning since I've started sharing. And I've learned from other people before me on stages like this who have shared. And it's an interesting thing. I didn't know what Simon was going to talk about, but it was interesting to listen to his talk this morning. There was segues into what I was talking about here. Be joyous. Be kind. So we see. And then we want to try. This is kind of my learning pattern, so I'm kind of exposing you to how I like to do. I learned about selenium. I saw it somewhere online. I thought, ooh, I'm curious about that. I'm going to start trying it and see what I was doing. I was trying. I was getting successful, but I was running into hurdles. So I had to start asking questions. So don't be afraid to ask those questions that you think are hard or that are a dumb question or whatever. Keep asking those questions because that's how we learn. And again, once you learn, keep learning. And once you learn, share. I can't see my notes, so I'm going to just move forward. Oh, let me back up. So part of this, my teaching style that I do with my, there it is, thank you, that I do with my coworkers and resources I work with is I sort of put them through the ringer because, you know, great pleasure from proving people wrong, but I'm not trying to prove them wrong. What I'm trying to do is teach them. And so my teaching style where I'm at is I don't want you to write a line of code of automation until you can write it in plain text and can explain it to me in a way that I could execute it. I also apply this mentality or this thought process around even manual testing. So the organization that I work with, the philosophy that we have is we haven't created silos. We've created resources, I guess is the best way to do it, where everybody does everything. We do manual testing, we do automation. And the role, I really like this QA role because I can do all kinds of aspects. I can do database work, I can do QA work, I can do automation, I can do development, I can do teach people, share my ideas. I really like to dig in, figure it out, and once I figured it out, I like to share it out. But if you remember that fortune that kind of sarcastically, you like to prove people wrong, I've noticed in myself when I've been talking with coworkers, so I'm a full-time telecommuter, I don't see people when I'm working, I talk to them on the phone. And sometimes my mood isn't good, and I'm not very pleasant. Sometimes my mood is good. But what I've tried to start doing this year and a few months into the last year is instead of being irritated by the questions of why, because I'm saying you guys need to ask the questions of why, because you got to continue to ask it. What I'm starting to do is respond with, I'm happy to help. I'm using a positive answer back, which changes my mood, and it changes my way to listen to them. And so what I teach is what's called a testing tower. And with that testing tower, I want them to understand that to build a testing tower, you have to have a solid foundation. Once you have that solid foundation in place, you can start to put bricks on top of that to make that tower strong and can withstand long-term maintenance. And that's where it equates into our automation. So don't forget to keep asking the question, why? Use positive responses back. It can change your mood, and it can help that person that you're communicating with. And of course, don't forget to share. So along with this pathway, I'll just give you a little bit of some numbers. So my test suite is called Caesar, because Caesar was the first chimpanzee ape to communicate, and we have where I'm at, we use monkeys to simulate the status of if this build is good or not, pass percentage rate. My test suite right now, 24,000 plus test cases. Yes, it's a lot. Or no, it's not. I'm supporting 19 different applications. And if I were to execute that full suite, it would run in approximately 5 hours. Now, I was been able to sort of tweak this really good, and I got it down really low, but then we started having lots of stability problems because of the load that I'm passing through. You can see here by the numbers I started tracking my numbers February of last year, March of last year, and as of February, I've executed 30 million plus test cases with that pass rate. If you're curious to know how I'm doing that, come talk to me. In addition to that, I've ran 6.8 million plus tests against Sauce Labs. I'm beating on Sauce Labs pretty good. And I've been able to get up to a concurrency of 1,300 plus machines executing my tests. So you've heard, maybe not yet, but I'm sure you've heard of Dave Hefner's talking about test flake. I've suffered from that problem. But the interesting aspect for this is my flake right now, because of what I'm running through, the load that I'm running through, it's actually coming back from Sauce Labs. Sauce Labs has problems. They're not perfect. I'm not perfect, but we work through it together. So that's just some high-level stats about me in testing a technical aspect of it. If you want to hear more information about that, come find me. We'll talk about it. So what I'm going to do is leave you guys a few minutes for questions, but what I want to do is leave you with this quote. And this quote is from Beethoven. I feel strong about this quote because I feel like I am doing that, and we are doing this. Don't only practice your art, but force your way into its secrets, for it and knowledge can raise men to the divine. But interesting, what I'd also like to include in there is /women. But men in this category is like all mankind. But there's an interesting aspect when you include women into that talk. I'm really happy to see here at SauceCon that there's a lot of female representation. And that makes me excited because this industry is starting to embrace women, and I love that. We're not all computer geeks in the back door at Special Men's Club. We're getting more and more exposure into women, and I really appreciate that women are willing to join, and I'm glad that men are willing to allow women to join. So that's me. I'm Mike Millgate. You can find me out there in Twitterland. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Got a handful of minutes. Mike?
I'm making you think. It was right after lunch. That's hard. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.